Do love that little ding-dong bell. Channel 4 is tonight locked up in a diversity row after Culture Secretary Lucy Frazer approved the appointment of 4 white directors to their board. 14 out of 15 board members will now be white, which falls short of their overall target for 20% of staff to be from ethnic minorities. It prompted the corporation's chairman, Sir Ian Cheshire, to raise concerns. It's also now emerged that ministers actually blocked an ethnic minority woman, the former BBC exec Rosina Breen, from becoming a director. And Breen has hit out, telling the Deadline online newspaper representation is essential. And the all-too-live reality is that women of colour, especially in particular, face multiple barriers. More diverse senior decision-makers are essential if broadcasting is to become a genuinely inclusive industry. So tonight I'm asking, are there too many white people in British boardrooms? Let me know your thoughts. Mark at gbnews.com. Tweet me at gbnews. I'll bring you the results of the poll shortly. But to debate this, I'm delighted to welcome the Conservative commentator Aman Bogal and the anti-racism activist Ken Hinds. Brilliant. Let's start with you, Ken, if I could. Your reaction to this development?
I'm in total agreement that we need more diverse representation on Channel 4. I am very concerned that what we've got going on here is a whitewash. Now, it's so discouraging for people like me who grew up on this racist banter that we're not good enough. And so certain industry weren't for people like myself. So I didn't look to go to the city. I didn't look to play tennis. I didn't look to play golf. That has an effect on my confidence. I feel in 2024, it should be a platform where the young people from the black minority community should be able to not only dream the dream, but live the dream. And when we don't see people like us in the top boardroom because it's a whitewash, then that caused serious concern to me.
I didn't realise that we've changed our cast list for tonight. And in fact, I'm delighted to say we've got Albie Amankona, who is, of course, a GB News presenter and political commentator. Albie, lovely to have you on the show. Thank you for stepping in at the last minute. Do you agree with what Ken had to say there?
No, I don't agree with what Ken had to say. In the specific instance of Channel 4, they've appointed 5 new people to the board. One of the 5 new directors of the board is from an ethnic minority background, a chap called Tom Adeyula. And I personally, as a black person, would hate to think that I had got a job just because I was black. What we should be doing when we are employing people is employing people based on their merits, based on who is best for the job, not just based on how someone looks. And I think it's actually quite regressive for people to say that we should be appointing people just because they're black or just because they're a woman or just because they're gay. And if we actually look at the appointments process of this board, they actually appointed someone to the board who is from an ethnic minority background. So that disproves this whole idea that Channel 4 or indeed the Culture Secretary is somehow racist.
Now, Ken, listen, before I come back to you, let me put a point to you, because I'm very, a great believer in diversity, of course, in all matters. But this particular set of rules at Channel 4 is quite absurd, because a certain percentage of people have to be disabled. Why is that? Why is a disability somehow a necessary, condition of employment? Also, people of a certain sexuality. Who cares who you're shagging? It's Channel 4. You're there to make television programmes.
I'll tell you why it's so important, because institutionalized racism doesn't just go with to the police. It goes throughout the establishment, throughout Great Britain.
What's racist about Channel 4?
One at a time. Let Ken finish his point. Ken, finish your point and I'll come back to Albie.
Right. And I'm saying that what is so important, positive discrimination will help narrow that gap. And I feel this is a strong case for us to be represented in more than this one as a token, but having a real effect of having a body of people who look like me being on that trustee.
Ken, why this focus on skin colour? Why can't somebody that's Caucasian commission television programmes for an audience of colour?
Because quite simply, when I see that, it triggers me back onto that plantation to saying that the white man can only represent and knows what's best for my community. Why can't I see somebody, or my grandchild see somebody like me in that boardroom? Why must we have to figure it out for ourselves? That we have to be a point of change.
Ken, just doing the mathematics, the UK is perhaps about sort of 20% ethnic, it's only about 82% white. So if the boardroom is 1 in 5 ethnic, well, that does represent the national breakdown.
If we want to move anything forward, we've got to have radical change. We've got to be able to see more people like me in prominent position. It's no different to the football. We see them all playing the footballer, but not in management.
Well, Ken, I want to see people that look like you on this show very often because you're a handsome devil. But I take your points. And Albie, how would you respond to what Ken said there? Ken's talking about change, which society needs.
Well, first of all, one of the things Ken mentioned was that when he sees an all-white board, he thinks of being on a plantation. Well, Ken has never been on a slavery plantation in his life. He's far too young for that. Look, the point is we have seen a step change in this country in terms of having ethnic minority representation in high positions. Our Prime Minister is from an ethnic minority background. We had a black Chancellor last year. We have the most diverse cabinet in history. One of the 5 new board members who has been appointed by Channel 5 is from an ethnic minority background. I don't think Ken would be happy unless all 5 of them had been appointed from ethnic minority backgrounds, which is just obviously isn't a practical thing. We've got to be putting people in jobs who are the best at those jobs. We shouldn't be employing people because of how they look, because of who they're sleeping with, because of whether or not they're male or female. We should be employing the best people for the job. And Ken's method, Ken's ideal society is not based on merit. It's based on how people look. And that's just not practical.
What do you think, Ken? How do you respond to what Albie had to say there?
Look, he mentioned the Prime Minister. I'm not looking for a gold digger. I'm looking for gold. And my thing is simple. Albie says there is quite disingenuous because of the simple fact is I'm not talking about just a person of colour. I'm talking about the person who has the necessary expertise and qualification to sit on there. And you can't tell me we can't find people like that out there in our community.
Can I say to you, Ken, is it not patronising to ethnic individuals if they're there to tick a box? I mean, I don't imagine you tick boxes. You're on this show because of your ability to convey your views and your experience as a commentator. Do you really want to be the token man of colour at Channel 4 or anywhere else?
I thought I was on here for my good looks. But anyway, that's my bad.
There is that.
So yeah, but personally, as I said, before, not only just for the presence, but also for what I bring to the table, and that is through my lived experience. Because all too often, when we have to go through a third party can't give the same kind of weight of argument that someone who's lived that experience could. And I think that's very important to bring into that boardroom.
OK, and listen, a final thought, Albie, on this idea of sexuality, the idea that if you're trans, you identify as a different gender, or if you're gay or bisexual, that somehow that qualifies you for a place on the Channel 4 board. Is that progress?
No, I don't think it is progress. Look, Channel 4 has made some exceptional television content in the LGBTQ space. I think of It's a Sin. They've not been trying to employ people who are gay in order to create this content. What should matter are the merits of people and how good they are at their job. How good are they at writing scripts? How good are they at casting? How good are they at acting? Not whether or not they're gay, whether or not they're black, whether or not they're a woman. It should be based on the merits, and that goes for racial background and also sexuality as well.
What a fantastic debate. Gentlemen, thank you so much for furthering this conversation. The anti-racism activist Ken Hinds and GB News presenter and political commentator Albie Amankona. Thank you, chaps. So who do you agree with as a Channel 4 diversity row breaks out over its appointment of 4 white directors? Are there too many white people in the boardroom? Steve on X says, I don't care about the colour of people's skin, it's their ability to do the job, and I think most others agree. Why bring colour into it? Isn't that racist? Dave says, yes, there absolutely is. There are simply too many white people in the boardroom. Peter says, talent and qualifications over race or colour, and your verdict is in now. 4% agree that there are too many white people in British boardrooms. 96% say there are not.